If you have bad posture, check your feet. When your feet collapse inwards with every step, it creates a chain reaction that ruins your entire posture. A recent study took 35 people and made their feet artificially overpronate using inward sloping wedges. What happened was shocking. Their pelvic tilt immediately increased 5.4 degrees, their lower back arch got 6.6 degrees worse, and even their upper back started rounding forward. Here's why. When your foot arches collapse, it rotates your shin bone inward. That causes your thigh bone to also rotate, which tilts your pelvis forward. Your lower back has to then arch to compensate, and your upper back rounds to keep the head stacked over the sacrum and balance everything out. So a foot problem quite literally becomes a knee, hip, lower back, and shoulder problem. This is why we view the body holistically, because every body part is tightly integrated with each other as one connected system. And because the entire body rests on the feet, a problem in this area will affect the position of everything above it. So before you spend money on posture correctors or back exercises, fix your feet first. Now, there are 3 steps you need to follow to fix your feet to maintain good posture. But before we get to those fixes, we need to be clear on what posture is. Most people think of posture as standing tall with their shoulders back. But that static position is a tiny slice of the range of motion your body moves through every day. What about your posture when you squat down, pick something up from the floor, step onto a box, run, jump, land, or swing a club? Posture is dynamic and we need to maintain it no matter the activity. Okay, now that we understand what posture is, let's move on to the first step to fixing it through your feet. To have perfect posture and alignment through your ankles, knees, hips, and spine, you need strong foot arches. When your foot arches are weak and collapse into overpronation during movement, they pull the ankle into eversion. That destabilizes the knee, which then shifts inwards into what is known as knee valgus. This valgus alignment puts the knee at risk. ACL research shows that people who overpronate are much more likely to develop an ACL injury because a collapsed foot isn't able to properly stabilize the knee. Knee valgus also sets a weak position for the pelvis, which makes it harder to keep the spine in good alignment and increases the risk of lower back pain. A study published this year took a group of 50 people with lower back pain and 50 without and compared their feet. They found flat arches in 58% of those with back pain versus just 18% in those without. Statistically, that makes people with flat feet over 6 times more likely to have back pain than those with normal foot arches. This research clearly shows that your feet aren't just what you stand on. They're the control centers of your posture, the base of support for the entire body. If they aren't strong and stable, nothing above them can be either. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how do you fix them? If you want strong, stable foot arches that don't collapse into overpronation and ruin your entire posture, you've got 2 primary solutions, one short-term and one long-term. The short-term solution is to wear arch-supporting insoles. They act like a brace, blocking the feet from collapsing inwards on each step, and studies show their short-term effectiveness in improving foot posture while standing and walking. But here's the problem with arch support. If you wear them for too long, your feet will get weaker. A 2020 study found that 12 weeks in arch support reduced intrinsic foot muscle strength by 14.7%. That's counterproductive if you're trying to build arch strength, which is why the long-term solution has to be foot strengthening. A 2024 study compared the effectiveness of arch support on their own versus arch support plus foot strengthening exercises. The group that strengthened their feet while wearing supports showed better improvements than the group that only used the artificial support. So, how would this multimodal approach look in practice? You'd start by getting a pair of arch supports so you can get immediate improvement in foot posture. At the same time, you'd begin a basic foot strengthening routine. As your intrinsic foot strength improves, you'd start transitioning out of the arch supporting insoles. For instance, you'd go from wearing them every day to 2 days on and 1 day off for a few weeks. Then 1 day on, 1 day off. Then 2 days off and 1 day on until you no longer need them. But for that to work, you'd have to gradually ramp up the intensity of your foot exercise program so your intrinsic foot muscles can eventually take over the job of supporting your arches. This approach gives you day 1 foot posture improvements from arch support and long-term support from your own foot strength without any side effects. Now, choosing the right arch support is easy. For our top pick, follow the link in the description below. but strengthening your feet in a way that's effective and won't lead to injuries like plantar fasciitis is more complex. That's why we've built the Barefoot Strength Academy. We've spent the last 4 years putting together a simple, low-risk system for our members. All you have to do is join, take the functional assessment to gauge your current strength baseline, and follow the daily follow-along workouts that match your level. As you get stronger, you'll progress to more difficult workouts until your feet can support you in any movement. Scan this QR code or go to bfs.fit to get started. Okay, moving on to the second fix. If your ankles are tight, your posture breaks down at every major joint above them. Here's what that looks like when you walk. Each step needs enough ankle dorsiflexion to let your body travel over the foot into the next step. When you don't have that mobility, your gait breaks down and your posture goes with it. The first thing to break down is the feet below the ankle. They spin out like a duck and the arch collapses into overpronation. That's your body's way of trying to borrow ankle range of motion from the foot, essentially turning the midfoot into a second ankle joint. And that's just the start. Because the body's weight shifts to the inside of the foot, the knee travels in the same direction and travels inward too. That's the knee falling into that dreaded valgus alignment. Moving high up the chain, see how the thigh bone also falls inward. Now, instead of the force being centered through the hip joint, it comes in at an oblique angle, hiking the pelvis up on that side and dropping it on the other. That pelvic drop carries real injury risk. Research in runners showed that for every 1 degree of pelvic drop, injury risk jumped up by 80%. Here are some of the possible reasons why. As the pelvis rotates, the IT band is stretched on the stance leg, causing excess tension that eventually can lead to pain and injury. Pelvic misalignment also cuts hip extension short, limiting glute activation and forcing the hamstrings to compensate and overwork. The lower back then starts bending and hyperextending, causing the spine to become unstable. And remember, this all starts with tight ankles. That's why a study in army recruits found that those with the tightest ankles had 2.5 times the injury risk of those with average ankle flexibility and 8 times the risk when compared to the most flexible group. So in short, an ankle mobility problem becomes an alignment and posture problem, which leads to injury. Now that you understand the issue, let's look at the solutions. Here's how to loosen tight ankles in 3 steps. First, transition to zero drop footwear. When you wear shoes with elevated heels, your ankles are held in plantar flexion and your calf muscles shorten over time. Short calves block ankle dorsiflexion. Zero drop shoes, on the other hand, puts your foot back in neutral and lets the calves lengthen back to normal so they can stop restricting ankle range of motion. Second, strengthen your foot muscles. When the intrinsic foot muscles are weak, they can't stabilize the arch. The larger extrinsic foot muscles around the ankle have to jump in to help. They get overworked and tightness sets in, blocking ankle mobility again. So you've got to strengthen the feet with daily exercises. As your feet get stronger, the calves can relax and lengthen, giving the ankles their mobility back. Finally, regularly practice positions that challenge your ankle's full range of motion. A deep squat requires full ankle dorsiflexion. Chair sitting doesn't, but modern life keeps us at chair height, so the ankles seldom bend past 90 degrees. And if you don't use it, eventually you lose it. The fix: spend 5 to 10 minutes a day in deep squats, even broken into short holds. Do these 3 steps and you will drastically improve your ankle mobility over time. The third and final foot characteristic you need for a solid base that supports good posture is toe splay. Which shape feet would you rather have? This diamond shape or this triangular shape? I hope you chose the triangular shape. Here's why. This foot shape has proper toe splay. Each toe lines up with the metatarsals, so the connected muscles sit in good alignment and can generate maximum strength to hold up the arch. That alignment, paired with the wider base that toe splay creates, lets the arch hold their shape and support your entire body in good posture. But with the diamond-shaped foot, the toes are misaligned and the base narrows, hurting the foot's ability to stabilize the arch. So it collapses into overpronation on every step. That's why research shows a clear connection between toe misalignment and flat feet. As I've said many times now, if your foot arch collapses, everything above it gets pulled out of position and you lose the ability to maintain good posture in any movement. And it doesn't stop at the foot arch. The misaligned diamond toe shape also limits toe mobility, which hurts posture too. Here's how. When we walk or run, we rely on full toe extension to efficiently push off the ground and reach full knee and hip extension. That coordinated push-off is called triple extension. Now, if the toes don't have enough mobility, it disrupts this chain by limiting the extension of the knees and hips. And when the knees and hips are limited in this way, the quads and glutes can't produce as much force, so overall performance drops. Then the body compensates by using the back extensors more, leading to lower spine hyperextension. That overextended lower back, often identified by rib cage flare, shows up on every step. We see this postural pattern all the time, especially in running, which demands the most toe, knee, and hip mobility. To show just how much toe alignment affects mobility, I ran a quick experiment. Using a goniometer, I measured my max toe mobility with the toes in perfect alignment versus out of alignment. The difference was huge, with the aligned toe giving me 30 degrees more range of motion. Like I explained earlier, better toe extension improves knee and hip extension, which activates the quads and glutes and spares the spine from overarching, so posture can stay organized throughout the gait cycle. See how good posture starts all the way at your toes? If you want our full follow-along blueprint on how to build your body's foundation through the feet and glutes, then join our academy here and subscribe for part 2 of this posture series, where we will look at the glutes and its critical role in developing perfect posture. Just be sure to hit that bell icon to get the notification. See you there. Cheers.